If I shoot you in the face, I have caused you I have imparted upon you a responsibility. What you're talking about is fascistic. It is
Sam, do you think
disgusting.
That if someone commits a crime against you...
And so I'm sorry I said Rape Empowerment Act and tried to do it in a more satirical way. But what you're talking about
logic centers are shutting down.
And listen, no.
You're getting overly emotional.
No, I'm not.
You are not speaking logically anymore.
No. What you're doing
when a victim
is
of a crime, when a person is a victim of a crime,
do.
They have to file paperwork to get accountability.
Like you can find something in here, but
you're
it
not
is
talking about the argument anymore.
Nonsense. Yes, it is.
Sam Seder has an absolute emotional breakdown on the Tim Pool podcast. Tim Pool and Sam Seder were debating this hot topic, the hot topic of smortion, and Sam Seder just couldn't take it, resorting to ad hominems and personal attacks on Tim Pool, which Tim Pool had to calm him down. Let's see how this debate goes.
What do I think we should be doing? Well, we should at the very least be reestablishing Roe v. Wade statutorily.
I think the Supreme Court was wrong, and I believe that the 14th Amendment requires that the federal government make a ruling specifically on the issue of abortion. What that becomes, I don't know, but the concept of personhood needs to be ruled on one way or the other. So this is not a state issue. Trump is wrong about that.
But the personhood should no. I don't believe in personhood in the womb.
Right. So you think the Supreme Court should say no personhood in the womb?
Definitely.
I think the Supreme Court needs to answer one way or the other.
Well, I mean, it would put some things to rest. I don't think they're going to do that. I mean,
Trump is saying it should be a state's issue, and I believe that is absolutely incorrect.
No, I think we had an individual right that existed in this country for 50 years, and it was rolled back. We've never had anything like that whatsoever. I think it's a right that when taken away, deprives people who have babies their sovereignty over their own body, and it's both an economic issue and a personal liberty issue.
What do you think?
These people that are pro smortion, they always talk about it in like the wrong way. Like they always make it about like sovereign over one's body, and they make it just all about the mother. And no, it is not all about the mother. Yes, the mother is obviously important. I'm not denying that. I am not saying that we should just disregard the mother. Obviously, we should make this as safe as possible for the mother. But they totally disregard the life that is inside the mother and that is growing inside the mother. And even Tim Pool right here incorrectly saying, well, personhood. No, it's, yeah, if you want to say this, the zygote or the fetus or what have you is a person, I mean, yeah, that's a debate, but that's not the debate we should be having. We should be debating whether it's a life or not. That's the more important life. If you were to take the life that was growing inside of a mother and put it inside someone's hand, should that person crush it in their hand, or should that person throw it on the floor and stomp on it? I think most decent people who aren't monsters would say no. If I were to put that life into Sam Seder's hand, would he crush it? You know what? I don't think he would. And so undoubtedly, it is a life.
There should be restrictions
on abortion.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with restrictions, like, for instance, we say only in the case of, let's say, a danger to a woman, or a woman's life, is that is extremely difficult to assess where that line is. And we've seen this. 2 women have died at least in Texas as a function of the abortion ban that they have there. We also know that infant mortality in the wake of the Texas thing, because there's been studies on this, increased 15% in the wake of the abortion ban there. So in general, I would say that restrictions are in practice not viable, not doable, because you end up costing women their lives. I think that to the extent that I would have restrictions, I think you need a medical provider to provide abortions, that go past the maybe midway through the second trimester.
But, do you think that with elective abortion should be available up to 9 months?
If it is I think that is the safest route for women if it is done by a medical provider. Yeah.
Elective. I asked elective, to be clear.
Elective.
Meaning no reason given, no medical issues, just a woman saying, you know what,
I've carried this baby for 8.5 months and I've changed my mind.
Well, it's a little crass way of putting it. I think some women are going through some serious crises in their lives, and they may make a decision that's a bit more than just they've changed their mind. Like, for instance, where a woman is being battered by her husband, and then she realizes at month 6 that if she has this kid, he's going to continue to beat and harm the child, and she can't stay with him or something.
Well, I think, I'm not going to assess people's reasons for having an abortion. It's not really my business. But I think that having restrictions ends up costing women's lives. And so I would, on balance, not have restrictions outside of obviously particularly as you get further into the pregnancy, requirements about medical certified medical providers.
So let's say you have a scenario where a woman goes to a Planned Parenthood, 6 months pregnant, and she just says, I don't want to explain it. I just would like to get an abortion. Is that she should be allowed? There should be just medical professionals who say, we're going to do it. We're not going to ask you why.
I think it's okay to, explore it and get a sense, as you would for any type of medical procedure.
What does that mean?
Sam Seder is all over the place, on contradicting himself left and right. I just want to make a quick point. He brought up earlier how there's 2 women in Texas that lost their lives. So I've been looking into these cases because the Young Turks have been promoting this Smishmortian propaganda. Right before the election, all of these articles are coming out now talking about these women's passings, even though these women passed a year or 2 years ago. So why is the mainstream media covering these stories now when they happened a year or 2 ago? So these women are dying of sepsis. And the Young Turks and all these other people are trying to attribute it as, well, it's because they didn't want to abort the baby who was miscarrying. In the process of miscarriage, they wanted to wait till the heartbeat stopped before they did anything about it. And so then the women end up getting sepsis, and then they end up dying. Now, I'm not an expert, so I don't have all the answers to this. If there's anyone that has more medical knowledge than I, please feel free to sound off in the comments. I would appreciate that. But women with pregnancy, whether they get in a smishmortian, whether they miscarriage, or whether they carry the baby to term, they could all get sepsis. It's just when there's I don't know how to put it, but there's just leftover stuff inside of them that they didn't clear out of the woman. So what I'm trying to figure out is this the doctor's fault, the failure to properly clean out the woman? Or is this a situation where if they would have just given the woman a smishmortian while she's miscarrying, if they would have done that sooner, then this could have been avoided? That's kind of my main question what I'm wondering right now. So if you have any knowledge, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. But that's what these women are dying of.
I think that there's an obligation within the context of ethical practice of medicine to
not just terminate a baby at 6 months without reason.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they should adjudicate this, but I don't think that the necessarily medical providers are going to be just hop up here, we'll just do this right now. I mean, I think there are procedures in which they do it, but essentially, as long as it's they're following medical procedures, I don't think that somebody can, walk in here at 6 months and say to you, can you get rid of my baby? And you're allowed to do it.
No, but I'm just asking, should there be a time limit, 16 weeks?
I think that is, that endangers women too much. So the answer is no. I don't believe so.
So, but that would create a circumstance, be it as rare as, it may be, but where there's an 8-month abortion.
It's conceivable. Certainly in the 8th or 9th month. I mean, here's the thing: in the 8th or 9th month, you can you may find that the child is going to not be viable.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about elective. I'm specifically trying to ask about that.
But here's the danger, though. and this is what I'm talking about, why you have women who have died in Texas, and there's probably a lot more that we're not aware of, is that imposing these restrictions is not like there's no like bulb that shows up when you say this child is 100% not viable, or that your life is 100% not threatened. Like, where's the threshold? Is it at 20%? If the woman's life is in jeopardy, it's 20%. And this is, a vague, a doctor doesn't have like some meter that they put on the woman and say, oh, okay, your life is at 20%. No, these are vague determinations. And when you impose these type of restrictions on, what invariably happens is women die, because in real life, not hypothetical world, in real life, the doctors are afraid of crossing a threshold where they could get imprisoned, or they could lose their license, or, conceivably the woman might too. And so I leave it up to a doctor and the patient. I don't know what constitutes even elective. Like, is it elective if there's a 20% chance I'm going to die?
No.
That's not elective.
It's not elective.
What about 5%?
That's not elective.
What about 1%?
Not elective.
Okay. We know that
elective is usually used to describe
0.5%.
I've decided I don't want the baby anymore.
Because we know that, there's always a danger of a woman dying in childbirth. And it's above zero. So we're...
Oh, come on.
No.
We're trying to be reasonable, right? We want to solve the problem. We don't want to just say,
what's the problem?
Geez. There are conservatives who believe that if the baby is, well, for many, I don't even believe in IVF, because even a fertilized, embryo is life.
What's the problem? I understand that there are religious people who don't like what I do, but what's the problem?
The death of a baby.
Well, I would contend that we're talking about the death of a fetus. And
So the issue is whether someone determines personhood or not is a legal constitutional question that needs to be answered. For instance, in the Civil War, they didn't think black people were humans who had civil rights, and that's clearly the psychotic way to view the world. But you holding the view that an unborn child is or is not an individual who holds a view, whether they are or not, is an unanswered question at the Supreme Court level that I believe sooner or later will be answered. And they may make a determination that the unborn are persons who are.
What do you think?
Man, that's tough. I tend to be traditionally pro-choice. I think that when you have... do
you think there should be restrictions on abortion?
100%.
What should those restrictions be?
Time limit for sure, but I don't know. I'm not smart enough to give you a certain amount of time.
But here's the problem, is that when in practice, that time limit ends up killing women.
Well, you've got a dying baby or a dying woman, and we're trying to figure out how to save them both.
Well, I mean, one is
if the baby can survive, why kill it?
So you're saying viability. So
yeah, viability is huge, and medical technology is rapidly expanding that. But there's still a lot of questions in how we handle it. So my position is that the government can't mandate one person provide their body to another person. However, if a person provides consent in the initial phase, now they have an obligation for a certain time period. So
if you have sex and you get pregnant, you are obligated to carry that baby to term. Is that what you're saying?
I think that I'd be in favor of abortion up to a certain point.
Well, but I don't understand what the logic is there.
Logic is compromise.
Oh, so this is just a question of splitting the baby in half, literally.
Not literally splitting the baby in half. It is, can the government tell someone you must provide your body and blood to another person?
And you say...
No, it's... Oh, my God. Okay, Tim Pool, what's going on here? What are you doing? What is this whole thing like you can't mandate someone provide blood and body? This is not like a random stranger off the street that now the government can say, hey, man, you got to like hook yourself to this person. This is a growing baby. This is reproduction we're talking about here. It's not the same thing. Like, unless you've grown up a complete dummy, everyone knows that once you can consent to intimacy with another human, the chances are likely that you can become pregnant. All right? And so in my opinion, you're consenting to that if you choose for intimate relationships, okay? I'm not going to get into to graping or anything like that right here for the sake of this argument. I'm not going to get into that. We could argue that somewhere else, maybe later in the video. But as of right now, if you are a grown adult and you consent to have intimate relations with another person, you are in a way consenting to the chances that you might get pregnant. Because unless you're a complete dummy and you don't know how reproduction works, you have to know that those are the chances.
The questions of consent play a role in whether you allow someone and then have an obligation to them based on the requirement. So, for instance, like rape, I 100% exception. Health of the mother,
Okay.
100%
So
exception.
let's take rape.
Yeah. The woman can choose.
Okay. What establishes rape?
When a person does not consent.
Okay. How rape is a criminal term, right?
Yes, indeed.
So you need to go through the court case.
Perhaps.
Well, I mean, perhaps.
Well,
Like, can I come in and say I was raped and that's it? All I need to do is say I was raped.
nope.
Okay. So you need to have a court case.
No, I didn't say that either. There would have to be some degree of
Well, you keep
adjudication.
telling me what you're not saying, but why don't you just say what you're saying? How do you
No,
establish?
you got to calm down.
No, well, how do you establish what if rape has taken place or not?
So there's rape kits, right? And we can check for abrasions. And a woman who was raped certainly would want to get a rape kit done, I'd imagine.
Well, okay. First of all,
But if you're
there's-
asking-
we know for a fact
if you're
that a
asking
lot of
for-
hold on, we know for a fact that a lot of women don't seek rape kits for whatever reason because
too
they're
bad.
afraid to. Okay, so if you don't get a rape kit,
We have responsibilities to ourselves and to others. And sometimes those choices are very difficult to make.
so
If
just
we're
the
talking
existence
about-
of a rape kit will establish that rape has happened. Why do we need court cases to establish that rape has
I
happened?
didn't say we did. I said no.
Okay, so
So a medical professional a professional who assesses that a rape has occurred, I believe, is
what if they go in
largely
too many
sufficient.
days after to get a rape kit?
And then there's no evidence of a rape taking place? Then
Yeah.
That would be a restriction.
Okay, so who makes that adjudication?
If a rape took place,
Yeah.
the person administering the rape kit.
So we would put rape kit people who are administering this and look at the evidence. And do you think it's just like completely binary? Do you think like when you get a rape kit, like this person has definitely been raped or this person has definitely not been raped?
I think that we're dealing with something outside of the simplicity of I can go to court. It takes 6 months to a year to figure something out, which means there's a compromise. How can we come to the best determination to make sure that women are not lying, which I assume would be exceedingly rare, and we're actually going after the criminals? I do not think it's fair to put the burden on someone to perform an abortion without actually taking the responsibility of yourself and saying, look, victims have responsibilities. And it's unfortunate that they're victims, but we're trying our best.
So if you
there's-
don't go, so let's say for instance, like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever, and spent any time exploring the psychological and the sort of like social pressures on people to report rape. I mean, but you're basically saying that if you don't go and get a rape kit, it's contingent upon the police department to assess this rape kit. If you go too late,
Is that who's administering the rape kit?
yeah.
It's not a doctor?
No, I mean, they may have medical things.
Well,
but it's
I was talking
basically-
about a doctor. She goes to the doctor. She says, I've been raped. They do a kit and they say, okay. And then she says, I would not want to have a pregnancy from this.
Now,
And we say,
do you honestly, like, do you know how this works? It's not like it's preponderance of the evidence. I mean, it's like, so you're
Yeah.
basically saying the doctor gets to decide.
I am? You don't think
whether-
doctors should be able to decide to give a woman an abortion?
No, I think doctors can decide. Well, I think doctors are responsible
This
for.
is a compromise. I'm pro-choice, but I recognize that we're not going to live in a society where one side's demanding an extreme, the other side's demanding the
so
other
you
extreme.
think the rule should be if you get a
doctor makes the-
rape kit? What if it's somebody?
We're
who's
talking
like-
about edge cases.
What
I
if
mean, I
it's
don't know why you're
15?
getting so much into the edge cases.
Well, I mean,
How often does this even happen?
how often do people go in and get an abortion at 8.5 months because
Many.
they feel like it?
That's my point.
Yeah, very, very few.
Right. So why are you bringing it up?
Well, because of the people who you would.
Because here's the thing. You had feminism since 2000, in 2016 and on, you had this feminist movement that were promoting things such as shout your smishmortions and such. And advocating for, yes, women should just be able to get a smishmortion willy-nilly at any point of the pregnancy. You've had this big push for it. And a lot of women are have gone with this propaganda. So is it unreasonable? And also, too, you've had this demonization of the life inside the mother, calling it a parasite. People are still debating, even in this very video, whether it's a life or not. So if you have these feminist women here, these wacko women who believe like, yeah, this is a parasite. Oh, yeah, and there are women who've had multiple smishmortions. Why would it be unreasonable to think that there are women who have carried this baby for a while and want to get it terminated? And also, too, let's say it wasn't even a thing, then why is this push then? How come there is this push for why, like, do Democrats push for this whole up to 9 months, like whenever, like there should be no limit? Why do they push for it if it doesn't happen? If you want to argue it's for medical reasons, like, well, what if the mother is in danger? Like, if it's for medical reasons, they don't say that. They don't say only for medical reasons should there be a smishmortion at 8 months or 9 months. They don't say that. And when people bring it up to them, they just put out this argument that's like, yeah, but who's really doing that? Who's really doing that? And then when you ask them, well, are you for it? Then they go, well, yeah, they should do it. Like, when you question them on it, they eventually come out and say, well, yeah, I just think you should have it for no reason. So when you hear politicians and people in the media talking like that, why isn't it unreasonable to believe that there are women out there who have carried their baby for 7, 8 months, 9 months, and then go and ask for a smishmortion for elective purposes? So I would like to see the numbers on that, especially from these lefties who like to be like have you seen the data? Have you seen the polls?
You would create restrictions are going to cause
exceedingly rare and not even an issue.
So then why would we have any restrictions whatsoever?
Because what do you mean? So that babies at 8 months don't have their lives ended?
Well, I mean, what if there are reasons for it?
That's then requiring adjudication. But it's so exceedingly rare. You're arguing an edge case for a dramatic change in policy.
But
I'm not. I'm
it's
saying
not a dramatic change of policy. There are, I think, like,
it's kind of wild
states.
that I'm like, women should be able to get abortions, but you're like, yes, but in these exceedingly rare circumstances, we should remove all restrictions because sometimes.
Excuse me. I think there's 10 states at least. I know you can look this up where there are no restrictions.
I agree. Yeah.
So it's not. This is not some type of like radical change of policy. It exists.
No, this is recent. After the end of Roe v. Wade, these are the restrictions that these changes started happening across the board.
I mean, I can understand that.
Do you agree with those states removing restrictions?
Like I say, yes, because I think
that's not Roe v. Wade. That's the end of Roe v. Wade.
I said at least go back to Roe v. Wade.
But didn't Roe v. Wade have a provision on viability? It was an additional case that people don't bring up. That was in the 90s.
Casey.
Is that what it was? There was a question about viability and whether or not you can end the life.
The court said in Casey it just changed the date in which, I should say the week in which states could then begin to impose restrictions on that right to get an abortion.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think these type of restrictions end up killing
the overturning of Roe and Casey resulted in states removing restrictions.
Correct. Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade created the legal precedents by which states could begin to remove restrictions.
No. They could. I think they could have done that prior to that. I think they could have done that prior to that.
So the question ultimately is, I'm not going to come down as the supreme judge and just say like it must be, the right is wrong. I say, and I've told Republicans this, if I was a woman that got raped and you told me I had to have a baby, I'd blow my brains out. Like, there is no fucking way you will tell me that I'm going to, by force, without my consent, give my body to somebody
else.
You are
telling that woman who got raped
some degree of responsibility.
You have to announce this. You need to follow certain procedures as a victim of a crime. Yes. And if you don't, we're going to force you to carry that child to term.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
There's a responsibility we have as victims of crimes as well. And one of the problems we have in this country is that...
That's an interesting theory.
Well, it's true. Right? If you're a victim and you want accountability and justice, you have to go to court.
What if you make the determination that I don't want to go through what is involved with getting accountability and justice, but I also don't want to carry my rapist child? In that scenario, the woman is out of luck, according to you.
If you are not willing to take your responsibilities
The responsibilities that
of victims.
that the rapist has imposed upon you.
Indeed, yes.
Okay. So this is what do you call this? The Rapist and Power Act?
I suppose you'd say that liberals have a view that they have no responsibilities at all. That there is no
I don't feel like I have a responsibility. I certainly don't feel that if I was
Sam, you're not
someone
making
who
an
could be, I am making an
Well, the
argument.
Rapist Responsibility Act is an emotional nonsense.
No, it isn't. It's
We're talking about a person's responsibility to society.
that is exactly what you're
No,
suggesting
it's drama
is tantamount.
nonsense.
No, it's not drama
it's
nonsense.
prop clipping.
No, it is not.
Yes, you are. Come on,
Dude,
You're not
I
making
don't
an
give
argument.
a shit about
Make an argument. Don't say nonsense
The
words
argument
like rape.
is that what you are suggesting
Is
is
that-
that a woman who is raped has a responsibility that has been bestowed upon them by the rapist. The rapist has chosen you. If I shoot you in the face, I have caused you I have imparted upon you a responsibility. What you're talking about is fascistic. It is
Sam, do you think
disgusting.
that if someone commits a crime against you,
And so I'm sorry I said Rape Empowerment Act and tried to do it in a more satirical way. But what you're talking
your
about
logic
is
centers are
disgusting.
shutting down.
And listen, no.
You're getting overly emotional.
No, I'm not.
You are not speaking logically anymore.
No. What you're
when
doing
a victim
is
of a crime, when a
you are
person is
doing
a
what you
victim of a
always
crime,
do.
they have
You're
to file
trying
paperwork
to pretend
get
like you
accountability.
can find something in here, but
You're
it
not
is
talking about the argument
absolutely
anymore.
nonsense. Yes, it is.
You are no longer
I've now-
talking about the issue
because
nor the law.
everybody sees. Oh, I am
You are getting
definitely
overly
talking
emotional.
about it. I don't.
You're talking about my person. You're doing ad hominems. You've lost it.
No. Here's
Sam,
the point.
let's start with the
You're
law.
so full of crap.
You see,
it's
here you go.
amazing.
You can't even make an argument anymore, can you?
I don't need to because
You don't need
everybody
to
who
make
has watched this,
arguments.
no. Everybody who's watched this knows that
watching you have an emotional
you're
breakdown on
saying
camera.
that a rape victim has a responsibility that has been bestowed upon them by the rapist. It's gross. It's disgusting.
You are having an emotional breakdown right now.
I'm not having an emotional breakdown right now.
Do you think the police
I'm getting
should be? Oh, you want to wait?
because I'm thinking of my daughter.
Here we
and
go.
I'm thinking of my daughter.
Here it is.
And I'm thinking of the idea that a
Sam.
rapist could force her to
Sam.
do something
Sam,
that
you're spiraling.
No,
You're
I'm not
spiraling.
No.
You're spiraling.
Tim,
you're not
you're
even
afraid
stopping talking
because you just
you're not even
found
stopping
out
talking.
You never
you're gonna,
think
you're gonna,
out
you're gonna,
anything
you're gonna,
that you
we're
say,
gonna say something.
and
We're
upset
gonna talk, or are you gonna
that
keep just talking about
faced
nonsense?
you in front of all of your
Are you
audience.
gonna wait for your prop
The
clipping?
Rapist
You're prop clipping,
Empowerment
Sam.
Act.
You're prop clipping.
I don't even know what that means.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. You're
What does
prop
it mean?
clipping again.
What is prop clipping?
You're not arguing abortion anymore.
What is prop clipping?
You said, Tim, you're full of crap. You're not arguing abortion anymore.
Because
you disgust me. Oh, rape, blah, blah. You stopped
You're
arguing.
saying
you
that a
stopped
rapist-
arguing and you started doing performative garbage for the camera.
No, I'm
You
not
want to
doing
have
performative
you want to have a
garbage.
discussion, Sam?
Dude, the best
You wanna-
part of
do you
this
wanna have a discussion,
was
or are you gonna keep
tying
talking?
you in knots about
You
the
wanna have a
idea
discussion?
that a rapist can force a woman.
Here you go again.
to go in-
Here you go again. You're making things up.
I'm reiterating.
You're prop clipping.
I am reiterating.
You're prop clipping.
I am
Sam,
reiterating your
You're
position.
getting overly
to me.
emotional. You're getting heated. You're finger pointing. You're throwing slurs and name calling. You're
What's
full
the slur?
Well, I forgive me. You're so full of crap. You disgust me. Blah. That's
You-
not an
honestly,
argument. You want to have a
I gotta
discussion?
be honest with you.
You want to have a discussion, or you're gonna have an emotional breakdown?
You know what? I am going to continue with the so-called emotional breakdown because honestly, I think
That's right, Sam.
no. I honestly.
Let's solve our problems by Sam
I
just
honestly-
freaking out and having emotional breakdowns on camera.
I honestly think that like
Come
what
on,
you
Sam.
do is so damaging.
Oh no!
And this
here he goes.
whole notion that you,
Broke.
would allow
It took 2 hours
for
and 40
race-
minutes for you to break.
Yeah,
You
this
broke.
whole
Sam,
why are you keeping
broke.
me from talking?
because you haven't
If
let
you
me talk
think
one
I'm-
time.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Victims of crimes who want accountability have responsibilities.
What if they don't want accountability? What if they don't want to put themselves on the stand and have to point
they
out
don't get
that
accountability.
guy? Okay, but they have to carry the baby, right? According to you,
If they don't want accountability, then this is
then they have to carry the baby.
This is reality.
Say it.
A woman.
Say it. If they
I will
don't
say it as
want
plainly
accountability,
as I can say
they
it
have to
100%.
carry that rapist baby.
If a woman does not want accountability for her rape, she will carry that baby.
She has to.
She has to, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, up to 15 weeks.
That's the prop clip I want right
up
there.
to 15 weeks.
Again, this baby is still a life, and it is also a victim as well. The life that is inside the mother is also a victim. They're both victims. The mother and the unborn child are both victims here. So why unalive one of them due to the sins of the father? Why not instead advocate resources for women? Why don't we push resources for women to get help through these times. Mental help, obviously, and obviously physical help, with carrying the baby to term. Why not push these? I know they're out there. I know there are resources out there. Why not instead just advocating, we got to unalive this life inside the mother, because of the crimes of the father and the evils of the father. Why don't we help them both and advocate for resources to both? Why punish the unborn life?
I mean, I think we have come to an agreement
that women can get abortions if they're so choosing without any restrictions up to a certain amount of time. And then after viability would have to...
They don't want to pursue their rapists in a public setting, and they don't want to go through that.
Sam, you're having an emotional breakdown. You've stopped listening to what's being said. You started getting angry, insulting. You're disgusting. How dare you? This is... And you know what?
You don't think saying
Sam,
to me that you're prop clipping. I don't know what that means, but...
So it's... When you stopped arguing abortion, finger pointing and waving your hands and saying, I tied you in knots in front of the camera.
Yes.
And this is why people don't invite you on their show.
I don't give a shit.
I know.
I'll tell you something.
That's why you don't get invited on shows.
No,
you don't
care.
I know you don't care. I'm not saying you do.
I don't care. I honestly, this is...
You start the show, I don't want to talk politics. I want to talk about how you said mean things about me before.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to get that. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
no,
your WWE politics.
No. Listen,
we're talking about how do we effectively have law on abortion. That should be a woman can do whatever she wants up to 15, 16 weeks, maybe even 22. I don't know what the time limit is. But if the baby is viable, there has to be accountability.
None of what you're saying is meaningful at all.
That there should be a time restriction on
15, 22. You're just throwing around numbers.
Because there's a debate on how long that duration should be. But my position is that pre-viability, I don't know, some say 22, some say 26.
And my addressing you is that the restrictions that you're pushing...
and you're disgusting and emotional breakdown.
Yeah. My emotional breakdown to you is that when you put these restrictions on women, they in practice are impossible to actually execute. And you have shown that by saying that if a woman refuses to go in front of a court...
I never said that. This is what I said, Sam. For the love
of
all that is holy.
If it doesn't take accountability, what does accountability mean?
A rape kit.
Okay. So if a rape kit...
You're saying I was raped with no proof and no evidence, and therefore I should have to terminate a 6-month baby.
They've got to go in within 24 to 36 hours and say to a doctor, I was raped. And if they don't do that, then they're forced to carry the rapist baby.
Depending on what you want to happen in society, there are things you have to do. Sometimes you may not want to have to do them, but this idea you have that people... What you're proposing is that the state should be able to enforce crimes against people without evidence.
What?
You want accountability, but you do not want to go through...
I don't want accountability. I just don't want this woman to have to carry a rapist baby.
Right. So this is very 5th grade, right? There is a legal system that exists. We have to work within a legal system because we have compromises and a social contract with other people. The idea that I can take action against another person without proper adjudication is fascistic. What we have to do is figure out what are the terms for each individual circumstance.
Who's the other person you're talking about?
So we're the baby.
Oh, so you...
At 6 months.
You consider a baby a person at 6 months.
Viability.
Let me ask you this.
Well, I consider a baby a person the whole time.
A fetus, a person the whole time.
Life begins at conception. But the state doesn't...
Life begins at conception.
But yes. But the state doesn't have...
You believe that in the context of immigration?
But the state doesn't have the authority to tell a person when they must give their body to another person. There's arguments over consent, in which case rape is an exception. However, I'm pro-choice.
Okay.
So what we're talking about now, because, make sure you include this in the context, and I'm glad you're here, I can say it to you, is a woman up to pre-viability, in my opinion, should be allowed to get an abortion if she so chooses because of the impossibility of properly adjudicating anything in between. I think that's where, when I say you're having a breakdown, it's because I don't think you're listening to what I'm saying. After viability, we're talking about extenuating circumstances where a baby that could survive on its own. There's now an issue there where the question becomes, why kill the baby? If we're talking about a period where we're not sure the baby's viable or not, we're wondering why the woman carried the baby this long. The issue is not so black and white for you to just say.
Well, you're saying this is about viability, not time limit.
Yeah, I'm.
You keep vacillating back and forth. I mean, maybe you don't realize this, but
So,
there's completely.
if you
everything
can't
you're
understand,
saying
I'll
is
explain it to you.
inconsistent with it. with what you're saying.
weak is viability?
What weak is viability?
Yes,
I mean,
it
I
varies.
think there's some debate about that.
Agreed. My point is, I don't know the point at which we as a society will determine it's going to be 16 or 22 or 26. I'm not a scientist or a medical doctor. I agree. There's an issue where if the baby can survive on its own, there's no reason to kill it.
Well, I mean, would you be in favor of a woman getting a C-section in 4 or 5 months just because she doesn't want to carry the baby anymore?
If the baby can survive on its own, my position is typically the woman can make that choice, as long as the baby's not being killed. But, so you know how they perform abortions after that point?
How they perform abortions after what?
Like there's varying degrees of how abortions are performed. So
Yes.
the question I have is this. Let me put it this way.
Like dilation and extraction? Are you talking about in terms of
my position largely is we've got two real distinct worldviews on this one that are extreme ends. They neither agrees with each other, and I'm trying to navigate in between to get people to be like, look, there's got to be some standard.
Dude, these are the ideas behind anti-abortion are primarily religious fundamentalism, and it is about maintaining a gender hierarchy. And the idea that you can negotiate, you're basically taking Hillary Clinton's position from 2004.
Probably.
And it doesn't work that way. The fundamentalists who are pushing this ideology, and it's largely fundamentalists, and if not directly, certainly downstream from a religious fundamentalism, they're not interested in your compromise. It is, and the proof of it is
Not interested in yours.
I'm not compromising. The proof of it is after 50 years, there was a compromise. It was Casey, exactly what you're talking about, which is why when you asked me at the beginning, I said, at the very least, go back to Roe v. Wade and maintain those protections. But that equilibrium was not enough for the right-wing Republican Party. And so, therefore, that's where we're at now. That's the end of story.
And now we have states with no restrictions, and we have states with absolute restrictions.
There was a compromise, and the right wing in this country did not want it. That's it. That's why this is a debate. And you have an individual right that has cost the lives of multiple women across the country. It is increased infant mortality, like I said, at least in Texas, by 15%. And it's, I think it also, and I think it's much harder to measure this, but it subjugates women in this country because it basically says you have less rights to have bodily autonomy, and that's just the beginning.
Wrong. Sam Seder, absolutely wrong. It was so entertaining to see him have an emotional breakdown over this whole thing. Personally, I believe we should try to save the mother and the unborn. I don't see why it has to be one or the other. But these lefties, they always try to push, let's just unalive the unborn child. Let's just get away with them. They're parasites. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. If you want to see Tim Pool owning more people, I have a whole playlist for you in that left-hand corner.